Buying homes without interest on payment plans. Let's start talking about this. Okay, so you guys will remember that we spoke about Waasiya Homes some time back, and let's kind of break it down a bit because we always get questions about it, and so let's discuss. If you've been to Dubai before, you'll notice that all the buildings, they have like logos on the top of them, like Damak, Danube, which essentially are the names of all of these big property developers. What these property developers do, they will get a plot of land and they'll say, we're building apartments here, and we're going to start selling them, and you can buy them on interest-free payments. You can pay for it over 7 years, and you can get the keys in 3 years, like it will be built, and then you can carry on paying for it. Waasiya has built independent relationships with these property developers and said to them, hey, love what you're doing. But we've got a bunch of Muslims in France and obviously through Waasiya in the English-speaking world who would love to buy these interest-free payment plans. And so what Waasiya did is Waasiya basically worked with them on building a contract that takes out the late payment fees. There's no late payment fees. And so all of a sudden, it becomes a viable option for us to buy a home. An example cost could be when we first launched, we had a development that was like studio flats for about £120,000, and that one was 20% down, which was about £24,000, and then 1% monthly for like 7 years. Now, let's talk about the Islamic side of it. So I should prerequisite this by saying I'm no Islamic scholar, I'm not personal knowledge. However, Waasiya has had their contracts checked and the business model checked by various shuyukh. But at the end of the day, every shepherd has, I don't know where I was going for, but the point is for sure you should get this checked by yourself. Like when you get your contract or you get a bit breakdown of the business model, go to your teachers and say, look, this is what I want to do. I want to buy this home. This is like the model. Is it all good? And is it all good? Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. So I moved to Dubai about 18 months ago, about a year and a half ago from London. And I made a video about it on my personal channel, not this channel, but my personal channel. And it was called I Moved to Dubai Q&A. And it's fair to say your boy got a little bit of hate for it, okay? Not too much, just like people commenting stuff like I wasn't specific enough. And so people were mad. People were mad. And so I'm going to try and address it now, talk about the fact that I'm a year and a half in now, was it worth it? And hopefully get more specific about some of the stuff that you guys were mad at me for, okay? Because I'm scared, okay, of the comments that I might receive. Just a quick roundup. I moved here 18 months ago and came with my wife and my kids. I have 2 kids. Zakaria and Khalil, and they are now, as of this month, Zakaria will be 4 and Khalil is 2. When we moved here, Zakaria was 2 and Khalil was 1. Okay, we're all up to date. Right, that's enough about my personal life. Also, I'm wearing a jumper, and on top of that, it says, stop thinking about what others will say. Both things are quite contradictory to what we're doing in this video, because I'm both going to address what people are saying, and also I'm wearing a jumper and I'm in Dubai. But in the studio, we've got to keep the AC on and everything on and the fans on so that the equipment doesn't overheat, which is also something that you have to consider when moving to Dubai. Equipment gets hot. Okay, so let's start by looking at the comments on the video. So we'll ignore all of the great comments, the good comments. Thank you very much, guys. And in fact, it is like an 80-20 split, or maybe even a 90-10 split. Alhamdulillah, a lot of people are very positive, grateful for the value and making loads of du'as and happy. And so thank you. But we're not going to address that. We're going to address the hate. Not the hate. I shouldn't say hate. Not everything that's critical is hate. But let's call it hate. Because where's the drama in just calling it criticism? Okay. So, this one was actually nice because he started with love you bro, so actually this is not hate at all, but he said love you bro, but the answers were mad vague, like cost of living, typically given in numbers, cost of rent, cost of a burger, chips, takeaway, cost of a short cab, salary, expectations, and so on and so forth. So that's a fair point. I was vague. I'm often vague, especially like a year and a half ago when I moved here. I was probably the reason I wasn't like so clear with my numbers is probably 2 reasons. One, I would say because it's like, you know, generally speaking, you do think a lot about like how will what I say be perceived. If I said, for example, that my visa cost £5,000 or my house costs, you know, 110,000 dirhams and so on and so forth, how will it be perceived? Will it be like, it's like, whether it's positively or negatively perceived, there's a perception. And it's like the safer, the defense mechanism is like, if you don't give something so clear, there's no perception. And sometimes that's better, right? But in a situation like this, that's not better. It's just unclear, and people are watching the content because they want to know if it's a valid or valuable move for them. And me not being clear with like how much, I was like, oh, I didn't watch the video back, but I think I was like, oh, you can pay like anything from like 2,000 to 5,000 for a visa or whatever. But you guys wanted specifics. So that's fine. By the way, I will try and be as specific as I can in terms of maybe I just can't remember things and I can't find like receipts and stuff. So you got to bear with me on those things. But generally speaking, I should have a good idea of things. So also stuff like cost of burger, cost of chips. I've been here a year and a half now. I know both how much you pay for things and also like where the hacks are and stuff like that. So I should be a bit more specific, hopefully, with those kind of things as well. That was the first reason, just from like a perception, an ayn perspective of like, you tell the world what will people think and stuff like that, even though you shouldn't care what people think. But it's natural, right? I'm human. And then the second reason was, I can't remember the second reason. That was probably the reason. It's odd that whenever I do a podcast, my ears get blocked. Okay. Cool. So answers were vague. We'll address that, inshallah. So in fact, let's address that now. So let's talk about costs of living. Visa. To get your visa over here, I mentioned that there was a few different ways you can get yourself over to Dubai from the UK. One, of course, is employment. We won't go into that too much because I think everybody knows how that works. You get employed. Your employer provides you with a visa. They'll often give you a expat package, which includes a visa, healthcare. What else does it include? Visa, healthcare, maybe housing allowance, maybe a schooling allowance and stuff like that. That's another thing to bear in mind, that schooling is something that I was a bit vague on. My child is now in nursery, so I can give some more expectation of the cost, which I personally think I've watched a few videos on like costs of schooling, and I feel like I haven't received an accurate. I think you might be surprised with what I say compared to what other people say. Where was I? So that's one way of getting a visa, through employment. Second way of getting a visa is, in fact, there's actually a plethora of ways of getting a visa. Like you can get a freelancer visa, which I didn't want to go through because there were quite a lot of, from what I remember, requirements of like proving that you're earning like, I think it was like $3,000 per month. And then you have to like showcase like the accounts for those things maybe, and you have to like pay fees and things like that. And it was a bit more like controlled, I think, from what I remember. I might be wrong, but for some reason I wanted to go down the route of like creating my own business. So if you were to go down the route then, so that's the third one, is creating your own business. If you were to go down the route of creating your own business, by the way, if you did want to go for the freelancer one, I think the website was like, that I saw was called Go Freelance. Yeah, gofreelance.ae. Again, it was about 2 years ago I started looking into this, so I can't remember why I decided not to go for this. It could have been just a cost thing, but it looks like a viable option, and especially if you just want to go down a route that's more like hands-off, you get direct instructions, you're not doing things a bit as manually, then Go Freelance might be a good, and for example, you just want to like work from anywhere, as like a nomad, then that might be your best bet. And actually, I'm looking at it now. It actually doesn't look that bad in terms of affordability. It says the types of visas. 1 year visa is 4,300, so that's like around £1,000 or just less. AED to GBP. My battery is also like 5%, so I should probably charge that. 4,381.97. Yeah, and that's £981.90 as it stands. But obviously that could change when you listen to this episode. I'm just going to get the charger, guys, yeah? Okay, another thing to bear in mind is that because I don't have anyone in here with me, there's the camera's on autofocus. So there's an incredibly high chance that the mic is in focus or the laptop's in focus and I'm not, for which I ask for your sincerest forgiveness. But we're doing this as a podcast and not as a video, so there's not much. And the other reason I'm doing this as a podcast and not a video is so that I can just free flow and try and get all of the information. And hopefully you're listening to this while driving, so you're not like, stressed out that I'm being slow with it. Okay, so that's like £980. And then if you get 2-year visa for £750, it's like £1,000. There would be other costs involved for sure. Like, look, here's establishment card for 2,000 dirhams. That's another 2,000 dirhams that you'd have to pay. So now that takes the cost like 7,000 dirhams and stuff like that. But it definitely looks affordable. But definitely look into that. From what I remember, when I was looking into it, it was like, am I allowed to register? Okay, no, that's about that. Yeah, look into it. It has a Q&A section, but there was, for some reason, I think I had the impression that I'd have just more control if I just ran my own business, which I think is still true. So anyway, check out Go Freelancer. It looks quite cool. The third option is to set up your own business, which is the option I went with. And then when you set up your own business, there's two types of businesses you can set up. You can either set up a free zone business or a free zone or it's mainland, a free zone business or mainland business. The difference essentially is that a free zone business allows you to work remote. All of them allow you to work remote, but essentially you can only do business outside of the UAE, from what I remember. And mainland license is what you would need to do a lot of things, like, for example, having a restaurant in the UAE, and stuff like that. But for most of you that are listening to this podcast, probably you'd want to go for a free zone because you probably got a skill that you're looking to monetize or freelance with it, or you might be a copywriter or a designer or something, and you just want to get yourself a license, work from your laptop from wherever you are, right? But like live in Dubai and get all the benefits of like tax-free income, Muslim land, and so on and so forth. So that's the route that I went down. Now, how much did I pay? That is the big question. From what I remember, it was around £5,000, right? And within that, I had an agent who was just incredible, walked me through everything. I'm going to put his WhatsApp number in the description of this video. His name's Abdul Bari. Had a really good, everything was done over WhatsApp, and he walked me through everything. He helped me with the information that I needed. He took my payment in bits. So I started the process in December. He was like, all right now we only need £1,000 to just get these documents. And so it was over a period of time. And then within that period of time, that was for me to have a one-man business, to register a one-man business, and my visa costs and cost of a few different things like my medical and stuff like that. Once I did move here, I did then have to pay an extra, and again, just off the top of my head, I think around £1,500 to sponsor my wife and children. So my wife and kids have a visa. It's like a dependency visa. I have the visa, and then they have visas that I have basically given them or distributed to them because of I am the guy with the visa. Right, they're my dependents. So I did that later down the road, so you don't have to worry about that straight away. You can do the whole move here without that, and then once you get here, you'd be like, right, let me sort out my wife's visa or my kid's visa. Bear in mind that they would temporarily be on a tourist visa, so you'd have to sort that out within 30 days, or they'd have to leave and come back or whatever. But ideally, you just get on that straight away, or once you sorted your visa out, you can focus on theirs. So even with that being said, you have to get their... So what's the process of attestation and stuff like that? So what documents do you need? Again, Abdul Bari will tell you all of that information. But essentially, if you're married, then you need to have a wedding certificate. And that needs to be attested by the UK, which means that the UK government needs to basically say, yeah, we accept this as a valid marriage certificate. And then you need to get also attested by the UK your children's original birth certificates. Now, if your children are already in school and you're moving them from school, I can't help you with that, okay? Because my children weren't in school, so I don't know the process. I heard through my sister that actually it's a lot there's a lot more processes involved from the UK side, because the UK schools can't just like say that a child is no longer their responsibility unless they get like some kind of communication from the new school or something like that. So that's something that you have to look into. But I don't have experience in that. And okay, so let's talk about the marriage certificate a bit. I like the fact that this is a podcast because I can talk for however long I want on all of these pieces of information. So I need to slow down. I'm panicking here, thinking that you're going to get bored. But it's a podcast. It can be 3 hours. Who cares? So with regards to the marriage certificate, we had a situation where we had our nikah, so our Islamic marriage, but we hadn't had a registry marriage. And so then we were like, okay, we're gonna have to get a registry marriage in order to like sort all of this to get documented and stuff. It's gonna be, we thought it would be this massive headache. I even booked the appointment and all that kind of stuff. It turned out that the UK government can attest and accept an Islamic marriage as an official marriage. So now we're like officially married in the UK through the Islamic marriage. How does that work? Well, for us, it was kind of like, alhamdulillah, I don't want to say luck because obviously we don't believe in luck as Islam is qadr, but I didn't intentionally have that like certificate. It just happened to be like that. So let's break that down how that works. If you've had a UK marriage, you can skip this part. You essentially just go to gov.uk, type in Google attest documents, and then go through the process. But if you haven't got an official registry marriage, then you're going to want to listen up. Hey, you're going to want to listen up. Okay. Okay, so here's how it works. So basically, you can go to the attestation website on gov.uk and then click attest like a religious marriage certificate, and then click Islamic marriage certificate, and then it will give you a checklist of things. And if your marriage certificate actually hits all of those points, then they can attest that as an official marriage document, which alhamdulillah ours had. Even my marriage story is so interesting because the mosque that I ended up getting like my marriage certificate from, even though I got married in London, was a mosque from Cardiff, because I was very close to the imam there, and so he travelled down to do the marriage, right? But I didn't know about all this. I didn't know that mosque just happened to be a mosque that like gives these official documented papers. But what it is that the checklist is something like the paper has to be official watermarked paper. So it has to have like the mosque's logo like watermarked across the piece of paper. It has to be signed with a type of pen or ink or something. It has to have an official stamp from the mosque and an address and all of those things. So there's a few different things like that. As I was like reading on gov.uk these requirements, I got my original marriage certificate out from the drawer, and I was looking at it and I was reading it, and every single point I was hitting, and I was like, oh, alhamdulillah. So I sent that in along with my original kids' birth certificates, which again, if you don't have, you can go to the Civic Centre, I think it was, to get those documents. It's pretty easy. It's like, I don't know, £30, £80, something like that. And then you can get another original birth certificate if you've lost it. Sent all of those in. So I went on gov.uk, put that information in, sent them in, and then like literally within like 2 days, I got them back. Bear in mind, this was December, so this was, and it was like around the holiday period. It was like around the 25th of December, so it was like super busy. I think it was COVID that year as well, so it said like the wait time could be like 2 weeks, maybe longer, because it got a backlog. Mate, bruh, I got it back in 2 days, all of my documents, and I paid £30 per document. So the UK actually were really amazing and fast with those documents. Got them all back, they were all attested. Oh, one thing to bear in mind, before you send your documents in, a registered lawyer or solicitor has to stamp your documents, date your documents, and sign the back of them, the originals, and say that they accept that this is an original document. So for me, my father-in-law had a lawyer already, and so I just used his lawyer, and I think if I paid anything, it would have been like £10 per document. So then you send them in, get them tested, now you got your documents back. So I just did that super in advance. I didn't actually need that until I registered my wife and kids, but I just got that done really early because I thought I just don't want to panic about anything. I started the process in December and we moved in like April, to give you an idea of like how relaxed I wanted to be with it and not panic. So Yeah, you get your documents back, and then when eventually down the line, when you do eventually move to Dubai, Abdul Bari will take care of getting those translated, and then the Dubai court system will also register and attest those documents and accept those documents. And that's a pretty simple process. It's not actually that difficult at all. Okay, let's go back to the visa. So that's how I did it. I started a free zone business, and then got my visa like that, and it cost around £5,000. The comment also says cost of rent. So cost of rent, like I mentioned before, it is different. You can pay. The great thing about it here is that you could pay around. So I'm speaking from the lens of someone who was living in London, privately renting in London, and so that's the connotation that I have, the context that I have. So this might seem expensive, but in London, like we were paying for a 2-bedroom flat, we were paying £1,300 a month rent, and then we wanted to, obviously we had another child, and the flat was a bit small in the sense that, you know, the kitchen was connected to the living room, and it was all like one kind of room, so the kids didn't really have much movement. So we had it in our mind that we were going to move after, like, we had been there for like 2 or 3 years, and the rent was kind of increasing, and so it got to a point where the difference between having a 2-bed flat and having an entire 3-bedroom house with a driveway and a garden, the difference was about £500 a month, and so we were looking at about £1,800. And so I thought, let me see what I can get in Dubai for £1,800, and that's how much it cost at that conversion rate at the time for a 3-bed villa. And a villa is just what they call a house here in Dubai. So that's what I went for, and that was 110,000 dirhams a year. Here you pay yearly. That's what they like for like most bills. But you can pay I got it down to quarterly, so you can pay up to 4 checks. And by the way, everything's done in checks here, or stuff like rent is still done in checks. So I pay in 4 checks. So I pay quarterly. So I basically put aside £1,800 a month. And then, but I think now the conversion rate is not the same. I think it might be closer to £2,000 or something. However, it differs. So because we wanted to make the move from a flat to a house in the UK anyway, because we wanted like a garden for the kids and stuff like that. That's why we went for this. There's apartments you can get, like, for example, apartments for like 50,000 dirhams, like a 2-bed apartment, 50,000 dirhams in Dubai as well. So you're looking at like, that's per year, yeah. So that's like 11,000 pounds per year. So that's about £1,000 a month. My brother-in-law recently moved here, and he got his place for like £5,000 or £6,000 for the year. So that's about £500 a month, and it's in like a really nice area near like Arabian ranches. And it's like modern, but it's a studio flat, so you've got to bear in mind. So that's also why his rent is quite cheap. But that gives you a better idea of pricing, hopefully. In terms of areas, you got to look into it. The area that I think that we were looking at first, and that I probably would actually like to eventually get to, is Sharjah. There's a few places in Sharjah. There's one called Nasma Residences, which looks really nice. It's like modern townhouses, but it's in Sharjah, so it's like there's kind of it's more quiet. People like to be going Sharjah because of like conservativeness and stuff like that as well. So but there's different areas. There's like the big areas, or the common areas that you would hear of, I suppose, are like Dubai Hills, Arabian Ranches, Damak Hills, Town Square. They're kind of areas in Dubai that generally people moving from the UK would go to. Obviously, you don't want to go to like Jumeirah and Villanova. Villanova is another one, a nice one actually that people would move to. You don't want to go to like generally Jumeirah, Marina and stuff like that. You know, if you're family moving here, it's probably not ideal. Just in terms of like, you probably want to be in like a community area. So that's rent and stuff. So cost of burger and chips and takeaway. By the way, in terms of like actual costs breakdown, IFG have done a good video. Mohsin, who's moved here recently, done a good video. We're not a finance channel here. I don't know what we are. Lifestyle, could you call us? So breaking down finances kind of more granularly, check out the IFG video. But Cost of burger and chips and takeaway. Okay, so cost of takeaways, I think you probably do takeaways more here because of the fact that they it's so easy. Like the culture here is so like service based, and you kind of get caught up in it a bit. But in terms of like the cost of it, okay, let's try and figure this out. So we ordered a takeaway yesterday. We ordered from like this healthy eating place called Right Bite, which is, you know, calorie counted spaghetti bolognese meals, or, you know, my wife had spaghetti bolognese, I had pasta with grilled chicken, and our meals are about 35 dirhams each, so about 70 in total. Dirhams are like £15. So I don't think it's much different. 15, 20, you know, pounds for takeaway for one or two people. We can do it with like the cost of a German doner kebab, right? Because you guys got German doner kebab in the UK. So from what I remember, German doner kebab in the UK was like £6 for like the original German doner kebab. And here, if I go on Deliveroo, I can see German doner kebab. The original is 39 dirhams. So that's £8.74. How can we see how much it is in the UK? I don't know. Oh, I guess if I just change my address to UK on here. So £8.74. And then let's switch it to... I'm going to switch my address to my old address in London. And I'm going to type in German doner kebab. It's not open yet because it's early in London. The original kebab, $7.99. Okay, so the difference is 75p. So kind of if you're used to UK prices, I don't think you're going to get much of a difference in terms of cost of takeaway. You do tend to get more takeaways here just because of how I don't know, I think it's part of the you get caught up in that a bit. So you got to be a bit disciplined. Cost of a short cab, I don't get cabs because I drive. So it's hard to say. I also don't know much about cars. So where I live about half an hour out from like Dubai Mall and stuff like that, and it would cost me about £20 to get a cab into Dubai Mall, which obviously is quite expensive. I don't think that's much different to what I would pay in the UK though. So salary expectations again, because I work for myself, or like I have my own company here. I work as an agency. I of course have clients and stuff, but I don't know what the salary expectation in Dubai generally is, although I think it's a lot higher. That is vague. Sorry guys, I still do vague. I still do waffle. Okay, next question. Next hateful comment was, you're very talented at answering. Oh gosh, I can't read now. You are very talented to answer questions without giving any valuable information. It was a waste of time to listen to you. And then someone else commented, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. Yeah. Yeah. Someone said, why did you skirt over the cost of living? Why did you not go into details as to what the cost of living was, like rent and mortgage and bills and food? By the way, so bills and food is a good one. So with regards to bills, in a townhouse or a house, we pay. So there's an app that's like incredible. It's called Dubai Now, and you can get all your bills in one place, one app. You can like pay by Apple Pay. It's incredible. So I pay all my bills with Apple Pay, which is sick. But let's have a look. Okay, the time I'm doing this video, my bill is the highest it's ever been. So it's not a good. I'm actually paying it right now as we speak, just to prove to you guys that you pay with Apple Pay. I want to give you guys a realistic. I've never paid this much for my bill, so I'm going to give you guys my bill history rather than what I've done this month. I must have been blasting the AC. No, that doesn't make sense because even in the summer I haven't paid this much. I should look into that actually. What have I done? I paid almost triple. Anyway, okay, so this is the peak summer months, right? So I'm going to give you guys a bill for August, July, and June. So there's only really 2 house bills. There's one house bill. It's called DWA. So it's like your water and electricity bill. So that takes into account stuff like your water, your AC. Obviously hot water and AC. I think that's the only 2 things. But there's no other bills. There's internet, which we'll go into in a second. But in terms of like house, there's gas. But for gas, I put in like £20 in the meter. So we have like a meter in the garden, and I top it up on my phone again with Apple Pay, and I think I put in £20, and then for like 6 months, I don't touch it, and then I put in another £20. I've only topped it up twice, I think, maybe max 3 times since I've lived here, and I've been here a year and a half. And I just put in £20 at a time. So it costs about 50p per... No, I don't even put in £20. I put in about £20, 100 dirhams. So what's that? £20 divided by 6 months. 20 divided by 6 is £3 a month, my gas bill. If that, I think I'm being a bit extra even by paying that much. But we have a gas stove. Otherwise, if you have an electric stove, you would have no bill. Why is my electric bill so high this month? Okay. Anyway, that's the only bill really, DWA. And okay, I was meant to give you. So in Dubai, in August, we paid 851 dirhams. So that's £190 a month. And July was 946, which was £214, and May was 710, which was £159. So I think in the UK my bills were a lot more because I had a council tax that was like £150 a month. Then I had to pay gas and electric as well. Gas I remember being around £100 a month, so that takes me to £250, and then I had to pay electricity. I didn't have to pay water in my flat for some reason. But electricity, how did I pay that? That was about, I think it was like £70 a month, I think. So in total, my bills in London were maybe like £300, £400 a month. And in a peak month like August, it was, what did I say, about £200. So generally speaking, can I go lower? Can I see the winter? No, I can't. I can only see like the last 6 months or something, or 5 months. But I remember there being times in the winter where I paid last year in Dubai like way lower, like I think like 300 at one point maybe, which is like £67. So obviously it's seasonal, how much you use AC and stuff like that as well. Okay, so that's bills, and then there's internet and mobile data. So internet is pricier here than the UK. In the UK we're paying like £25 a month, and for like talk, and we had like 50 meg or something. Here we pay about £100 a month, but it's like really fast. It's like 200 meg up and down. I think it's maybe £80 a month I pay. And phone bill as well for data. Here you basically get 50% off if you pay it up front for the year. So I think I paid like £500, and I got like, again, like international minutes, pretty much unlimited data and stuff like that. So that still works out to about £40 a month. So yeah, you can definitely, like, my wife in the UK was paying like £6 a month for her phone bill. I don't know how, I was paying like 50, but that's hopefully like a better idea of cost. Okay, food shopping. What are we doing? What are we doing about food shopping? So, okay, food shopping is like this. Eating out and food shopping in general. So with regards to eating out in restaurants, I haven't seen a big difference between eating out in restaurants, the cost in the UK and in Dubai. Except there's a lot more cheaper options in Dubai. Because you can eat out for you could eat out for like £5 and get like a meal, a drink, and a side if you wanted to, if you know the right places to go. So there's like great places to go here where, like for example, Ijaza is everywhere here, and you can get a shawarma for 6 dirhams with a carrot tea for like 1 dirham. And like that's like 7 dirhams, which is in total you paid what, £1.57 for like a shawarma and a cup of tea. But so you can do that, but do people do it as much? When people come over here from the UK, they tend like not to. And so, you know, if you go to like Wagamama's or something like that, you do pay more, like a normal restaurant. But again, it's like, it's similar enough to the UK, but I've not noticed the difference between the UK and here. Yeah, like, although I think I'd argue it's cheaper here maybe. Like in KFC, there's this burger you can get called the Dynamite Cruncher. It's so nice, and it's 9 dirhams, which is £2. I feel like you can't get KFC burger for £2 in the UK, or have I like completely lost my nut? Like, can't even remember anymore. But I feel like it's cheaper here. It's more affordable. And then in terms of grocery shopping, I spend more here grocery shopping than I did in the UK. I really miss, like, you know, in Asda you get like, remember like the pack of like a 12 potato waffles for £1, stuff like that. You don't get that kind of, it was harder to find that stuff here. So the supermarkets work like this. There's the ones that are near us anyway. There's a Spinneys, which is like the equivalent to a Waitrose. And so there you can get like all of the UK brands, but it's a lot more pricey. I tend to get my meat from there because I just like the quality of the meat. Then there's Carrefour, which I think is like the most common, I would say, like Carrefour and Lulu's. They have like big superstores. And then there's like Viva, which is the equivalent of like Lidl, and that's got really great deals on foods as well. Like we haven't been able to find UK style fish, like, you know, the fish that you put in the oven. Like you go to Asda and or Tesco, and you buy like a haddock or cod, and you put it in the oven, and it's really nice and crispy. We weren't able to find that same kind of fish, but we found that in Viva, and it was super cheap. But in terms of how much does groceries cost, I don't know. I pay a lot more, I think, here. I want to say that I pay around £600 a month for groceries, whereas in the UK, I think we could get away with about £100 a week. So I don't know if my kids are now older and that's added impact to it. But one thing I know for sure is that because it's imported, we don't get brands like Bird's Eye and stuff. Because paying for Bird's Eye fish fingers is way more here, because obviously it's being imported from the UK. So you got to like have the local brands or get used to like the local brands. And I can give you one idea of cost. So we used to like a lot what's that healthy ice cream called? We literally had it last night. Halo Top in Asda. So me and my wife used to have this like thing where we had an Asda near our house. We'd go there, and then Halo Top by default was £5 per tub. But often Asda would do a half price discount for £2.50. So whenever it was £2.50, we'd get it, and then we'd have like an ice cream night or whatever, right? Because it's like 370 calories for a whole tub of ice cream. Here in Spinneys, Halo Top. So even if you say, let's say for example, it's £5 in the UK, right, at full price. Here it's 42 dirhams, which is £9.41. So I have noticed a significant difference with that. But then Philadelphia cheese, for example, I paid 15 dirhams for, which is £3. How much is Philadelphia cheese in the UK? I feel like you can get it for £1. So yeah, it's like, it depends, like brands wise, probably UK. But generally speaking, like you can get spreadable cheese here. If you're not like me and you have to have Philadelphia, you could get it for like, 20p and stuff like that. So that's like, again, dependent upon like if you're bougie with those things. There's certain things that like I am bougie with, and there's certain things like I don't necessarily care. Like I don't need branded cereal. I can have Cocoa Pops that is like the brand of the supermarket, but for some reason I want my spreadable cheese to be Philadelphia. Okay, next comment. So much BS in the beginning. The main reason is the tax rate. Okay, so this is one I wanted to address. So I think I said in the beginning of this video that I moved here because I wanted to move to the Muslim land, and I thought Dubai was great. Like in terms of, I'm actually going to go into it in a second, but this person said so much BS. Main reason is tax rate. That's actually not true. I did not move here primarily because of the tax situation. It's a huge benefit that I get to keep 100% of my money, and that's like made a difference in being able to like upscale things, like, you know, pay more for groceries. It's like, okay, I'm not spending, you know, £1,000, £2,000 or whatever on tax. So that's obviously something to bear in mind. But no, I genuinely moved here for the betterment of my children from the Islamic angle, and for the betterment of myself from the Islamic angle. You see obviously what things are being taught in schools and stuff. You know, only Allah knows what's in my heart, but that was the reason. And I'm like, here you're never more than 5-10 minutes walk from a masjid. It's beautiful. And so even though I should be doing 5 prayers a day in a masjid in the UK, if we're being honest, it's so much easier here. It's actually difficult to not pray 5 times a day in the masjid here, because you hear the adhan, and so it's like you have to go to the masjid because you heard the adhan of the masjid, right? And so things like that, it's like then you be living more Islamic life. Like my kids, they go out and then like they'll say Assalamu alaikum to the security or the road workers or whoever. It's like normal, like the policemen. They say it's like you're praying Salah in the masjid, you're praying next to policemen. Like, you know, the whole community is like so beautifully. There's so much Islam in that sense, and I suppose like you choose the area you live in that sense as well. And so there's like more Islamic areas and stuff like that, but generally like all areas have masajid. I remember looking at the plans for a place once, and the plans for a community, and there was like an empty space, and I was like, oh, what's that? And then the real estate agent said, oh, that's where basically they have space for a mosque. And I was like, what do you mean space for a mosque? And they were like, well, within a certain amount of like square feet or something, they have to give a piece of land to like the, I think it's like Awqaf, or like the land department that deals with the masajid. And so like there has to be mosques in a certain amount of like space, which is lovely. So so that's like helped, right? And like that has shaped the kids' Islamic environment completely. People are like, you know, there's like a bit of a bad rep where there's like two sides of the coin. Some people are like, yeah, like we would move, and other people are like, no, like what's the difference and stuff. So first of all, there's masajid everywhere, right? That's one thing. Second of all, when you're in the malls, you're out wherever you are, the adhan plays at the salah time. There's prayer rooms everywhere. It's so hard to miss a prayer. There's like I was in the supermarket just now. The supermarket going to grab some some Philadelphia cheese actually. And I'm in the supermarket in Carrefour, and they're playing the Quran. Mishari was playing, and like you can't deny that. Like that's beautiful. And I often will go, when I drop my son to school in the morning, I work from a coffee shop, and whenever I and when I go to the coffee shop, it's so early in the morning. It's in a mall, and it's so early in the morning that most of the shops in the mall aren't open yet, and so they're like setting up. And every morning there's a shop, the Body Shop, which you guys obviously know, that's in the UK as well. The Body Shop, they always play Quran while they're setting up. I mean, every time I walk past it to go to this coffee shop, I like hear the Quran, and it just makes me smile. So you hear Quran so much more. Yeah, man, like to give you like practical examples of like my kids' growth, like Zachary is like always coming home from school, and like, bro, like today I was teaching him. So I've been teaching him the Quran, right? I started with the Fatiha, and he's just turning 4, so he's 3, just turning 4. So I'm like going easy on him, but I've been teaching him Fatiha, and then we started Surah Ikhlas, and then like he's okay with Surah Ikhlas now. So I was like, all right, let me move on. Where can I move on to? Like, and I was like, all right, let me do Surah Kawthar, because it's the shortest surah in the Quran, right? And so I was saying to him, I was like, Inna a'ataynaka al-Kawthar, and he was like, I just said it once, that first ayah, and he said it back to me quite well, like better than a 3-year-old who has never heard that ayah, right? And yes, we play Quran in the car when we're driving to nursery and stuff, but I don't know, man. It feels to me like he's learnt that at nursery because he knew it a bit too well. And so those things, you know, he comes out of the nursery. He's like right now, like his favorite thing to say is Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which he learnt at nursery. You know, so you can't deny it, you know, how beautiful that is. The other thing is we have to be realistic, right? I'm born in the UK. I've lived in the UK for almost 30 years of my life. My wife's born in the UK, lived in the UK for almost 30 years of her life. Now, of course, no one, like everybody wants to move to Medina. No one's saying like, because I think when you say like, oh, I'll move to Dubai, people are like, oh, like you're telling people to move to Dubai, but you know, and it's like, oh, that's the door. I'm going to have to pause the podcast because I think the guys are here to measure my curtains. Okay? So give me a sec. Yeah, okay, sorry, that wasn't them. So, okay. Imagine living somewhere for like 25, 30 years of your life and you're accustomed to so many things. You're not a type of person who's like, you're a homely person and stuff like that. Sometimes you want to do things in stages and sometimes you want to go somewhere where you still are familiar with things, or like there's things that remind you of home. And I think you guys get that. I think you guys understand what I mean by that. And it sounds like so silly, but sometimes, you know, you're walking around and you hear the British accent so much here, and it's like reminds you of home. And when that's how you've lived for so long, that feeling of like thinking, and you know, of thinking about home is like kind of warming when you're, you know, when you move to a new country, you've never lived outside of a certain country before, you move to a new country, you have apprehension, you have like nerves, and something like that eases you. Or, you know, you see you see so many UK brands here, for example, and again, it's like it has that thing of like just reminding you of home. And so I think that's a big thing. Like a lot of like how things are done in the UK, like the traffic lights here look like the UK traffic lights. It's small things like that made a difference, I think, a big difference. And so for me, that made a big impact where you can go somewhere where it's all the benefits I just explained about the adhan and the Muslim land and stuff like that. And Islam is respected and loved by like the expats and the people here. Like they are, you know, you can pray on the street and it's fine, right? Like you're not worried about, you know, some of the stuff that you see online. But there's something about, and now this exists everywhere to be fair, but there's something about seeing like Krispy Kreme, Starbucks, KFC, it's like is what you're used to. But then also there's like UK brands here, like Chaiwala. You know what I mean? Again, it sounds silly, but it was a situation where you can move somewhere where you can. It's almost like you're in the same place, but there's two differences. The weather is like so much better, and Islam, like there's masajid everywhere, and so many more Muslims and stuff like that. And there's so many Muslims from the UK here, so like you build a community. So yeah, that like also like there's other aspects. So obviously, one of the big aspects was the fact that I already had clients and work here. So I already had all like business connections here because I was moving here. I didn't know if like I could still monetize Freshly Grounded as I did in the UK. It turned out I couldn't. So I'm not even earning an income from Freshly Grounded. I haven't for like a year and a half. And so, you know, I didn't know those things. I had apprehensions about those things. And so if I was to start from zero, the place outside the UK where I have business contacts and connects was in the UAE. So there was that level of, and there's a lot of like UK businesses here moving here and stuff. Like for business networking, it's a great place. And then, there was something else, but I can't remember. I can't remember. But anyway, let me move on. Yeah, so he said the main reason is tax rate. So that's not true. However, of course, massive benefit. I now can't imagine. It just feels so much more right? Like the system here is in that sense so much better. But yeah, that reminds me though of healthcare, which I think you guys had a lot of questions about before. The healthcare again discussion is tough. Like, it's so hard not to be fake. I'm trying to be specific, but the healthcare discussion is a discussion you've got to have with like your teachers, man. Like, but essentially, if you come here on employment, healthcare, you don't have to worry about it. You get given healthcare in your package. If you come here as a business, as far as I'm aware, you legally have to have a certain level of healthcare. And if you speak to Abdul Bari, like, he'll sort that. Like, I went for like whatever I needed to go for to be able to get the visa, right? Like the cheapest one. Generally speaking here, if you can also pay for things on demand, right? And let's break down. Here's something we can get specific about is cost, right? So, okay. So, when we moved here, Zachariah got croup. I think it was croup, but it was something really bad. Like, he was like vomiting, he was coughing all night, and he was like really aggressive. And so in the middle of the night, I had to take him to the hospital. Now, there's different types of hospitals here. There's like American hospitals, British hospitals, there's King's College Hospital, there's, that might not be true. There's American German hospital. And then there's government hospitals as well. And the government hospitals are great, by the way. Like, when I say government hospital, like, they're really nice. Like, you go in there, it's like a mall. There's a big Toys R Us, there's a play center in there. And so I took him to the government hospital. And turned out he needed a steroid injection, which really helped, and some medication. And in total, I paid for that emergency trip, for him to have the steroid injection, for him to be seen by a doctor, for him to have the medicine. All in all, I paid £100. I'm not saying £100 is cheap. What I'm saying is, because by the way, if you come here on most packages, that's always free under healthcare. I'm just trying to give you the idea of if you pay by cash for these things, just to give you guys a whole holistic picture. But for 99.9% of you, that's irrelevant, because you're going to be maybe if you come, for example, under a company or employment, you get given, and all your dependents get given a certain like tier of healthcare. But for me, it was like 400 dirhams, and my kid got all of the best treatment. He got seen straight away. There was like hardly any waiting times. The doctors were amazing, Muslim. They come in and she was like, "Assalamu alaikum," and like talk to him, and just, great. And then basically what happened is that I then bought Khalil. Then I came home, and then a few days later, Khalil had the exact same thing. He obviously caught it off his brother, right? Took him to the same hospital, expecting to pay the same amount. Got it all sorted, and I went to pay, and they were like, "Oh, don't worry about it." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah, don't worry, like, we'll just like write off as an emergency." So I'm not saying that happens all the time, but there's a lot of compassion and empathy here, and genuinely, there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of generosity here that always is like so lovely. So you, like, for example, and that's taken some time to get used to. So again, if you come in, you expect it, it's not a good idea to expect it, but sometimes you get surprised with the level of generosity here. Like, when you go to a restaurant, we went recently to a restaurant with like Sheikh Tim and some of the brothers. We all eat in, we ate, we paid the bill, and after they were like, "Oh, would you guys like some tea?" We were like, "Yeah, that'd be nice." And they gave us all some tea, and there was no extra cost involved. We didn't have to pay for the teas. They were just being hospitable. They just gave us all, like, there was like 6 of us or whatever, or 4 or 5 of us, 4 I think, and they got us all some tea, and we sat there, we drank tea, and then we left. We didn't pay for it because it's just out of the generosity, which is nice. And there's a coffee shop that I go to regularly after dropping Zachariah to nursery. I'll go there, do my work, get a coffee, get some food regularly. Not every day, but it's happened, a few times where they'll just bring me out a cake and be like, "Oh, this is, by the way, like, we just wanted to, like," one time they were like, "Oh, we'd like to get your feedback on this cake." Another time it was like, "Oh, like, here's a cake on the house, just from the chef," and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of generosity in that sense. But in terms of cost, yeah. So that time I paid £100 for Zachariah. Khalil got the same treatment, but it was free. And then recently I took Zachariah to doctors, and I paid I want to say like £60. He had what was his issue that he had? I think he was just like really ill. and he wasn't being himself. He was like just like closing his eyes, lying down a lot and stuff. And that cost me £60. He got seen instantly, no queues, walked in. Again, not saying it's, I'm not saying £60 is cheap. What I'm saying is the service is incredible, fast, great doctors, and for most of you guys, it'll be free and included because it'll be given in the healthcare packages. But I just want to give you a holistic picture because last time I wasn't specific enough. And also when you compare it with the tax situation, I've paid in total, I paid £100. I paid £100 for his hospital appointment that month, but I would have paid thousands in tax, right? So, guys, I wasn't meant to make the podcast this long, and I'm conscious of time. I didn't even go into so many things, so I can do a part 2, but I have to pick exactly up from nursery. So, and now the curtain guy's coming, so that's great because he was meant to come at 11. Is your intention to improve your Arabic? Yes, that is an intention of mine. However, you do get to express more Arabic here slightly, obviously more than you would in the UK. But if you're coming in, you're thinking, I'll immerse myself in the language and learn Arabic. Most people speak English, Urdu, Arabic. So I study Arabic separately online, which is the same thing you could do in the UK. I use Preply, Preply. Okay, this is the last comment I'll address because this is the last comment that was more on the negative side or whatever. Someone said, "What? You're not going to take your kid to school until he's 5? Is that him missing a couple of years of education just because you want to live a fancy life? Weird." And then someone backed me. They said, "Kids don't start education until 5 legally, so you can teach them at home until that's up to you. Assume the best." Someone else said, "You should delete this comment. It's embarrassing, accusatory, and incorrect. In the UK, education for children is not compulsory until they turn 5. There's nowhere in this video where he states he's in Dubai for a fancy life." And so I want to give you a shout out, Naila, for backing me. And you guys are the best because loads of people, everyone's like just a hater. You guys are the best, man. All right. Anyway, I do want to address it though because one thing I didn't talk about was the cost of schools, and this is the final thing I want to talk about in this episode of the pod. By the way, I want to just say, in this episode of the podcast, if I get criticism for not covering everything, I'm sorry. I had a time limit. I blabbered on, okay? But hopefully I covered some more, and I'll continue to cover more. If you guys want this a bit more regularly, some updated information, I can do that. Let's talk about kids. So my son, obviously, I did end up putting him in education. I put him in when he was like 2.5, and this is Zakaria, and he goes to a British nursery that's a Muslim nursery. So it's British Muslim nursery. It's rated as one of the best nurseries in the UAE, and I'm telling you that for a reason because the cost situation, right? Because I'll tell you in a sec. So okay, just wait. I'll tell you in a sec. Okay. All right. Focus. In each class, they have an English teacher and they have an Arabic teacher. And Allahumma barik, he understands Arabic. Well, his Arabic teacher tells me he understands Arabic fluently, but he doesn't speak really. Like, even when I've seen, like, he's going to nursery, she's been like, Assalamu alaikum, Zakaria, kaif haluk? And he's like he puts his thumb up, or he goes, feeling good. So, but then he says random things in Arabic. Like, he says his colors in Arabic. He'll be like, "Oh, Dad, we got Abiyad car," which means, "Dad, we got a white car." Or he'll say, "Oh, like, I want tufaha," instead of "I want apple." He'll say apple in Arabic. Or he'll say, "I want moza." Or like yesterday, he was saying to me, like, "Oh, he wants to take his water up to bed. He's like, can I take my ma? Can I take my ma?" And I was like, "What are you saying?" And I was like, "Oh, he's saying ma." So he is better than obviously not, but he's not fluent. And he wouldn't be fluent unless I literally immerse him in the language by like teaching him myself or something. My fluency is not to the level where I can teach somebody else Arabic. Like, I can get away with very basic conversations in broken Arabic, and I would be laughed at even in that sense. So, but anyway, so for that school, it's rated as one of the top nurseries in the UAE. It's British Muslim nursery, British curriculum. They teach all the way up to FS2, which is, I think, reception. He's in FS1 right now, and the cost. Okay. It costs around, this is me being vague again, but only because I can't remember the exact to the penny, around 25,000 dirhams, right? For the year. Which is about £5,500 for the year, right? You could say like £600 a month. Again, am I saying it's cheap? I'm not saying it's cheap. But I want to just go over something here. First of all, again, if you're coming on a package, this stuff will be covered. If, like me, you're running your own business, then you have to pay for this stuff privately, of course. You might be thinking, like, how am I affording sending my kids to a private school and all these kind of things? Alhamdulillah, I made the decision to move out to Dubai, and I run a marketing agency out here. I'm not making income from Freshly Ground at the moment. I hope that one day we can get back to that. Obviously, I was going to tell you guys a secret, but there's something coming soon back to Freshly Grounded that people liked. I obviously have marketing clients. So Tertil, I run marketing at Tertil, and mainly, to be honest, 90% of my time is Tertil, but I also have things here, like for example the ebook that I set up. So I make regular money from the ebook. From that, I have some affiliate stuff, and like for example, Beehive have a very generous affiliate program where they give you 50% off. So alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed that through these platforms I have a following, and so Beehive give you like $25 for every person per month, by the way, for every person that signs up to Beehive and uses a paid plan, a minimum $25. So you can imagine if like 100 people sign up, you're making 100 times 25, right? 100 times 25 is 2,500. So there's a lot of like affiliate stuff and things like that I've set up here, and then I have like my marketing work and stuff like that. So because I imagine you guys will be asking, where are we at? But I do intend to supplement my income from Freshly Ground at some point, but right now it's not very lucrative. Where was I at with the comments? Okay, the cost, yeah. So let's go back to this. 25,000 dirhams for the nursery. The reason I want to speak about this is that when I've researched online when I was in the UK, and even before I put my son in school, all of the costs that I was looking at for like nurseries and schools, or just schools, let's talk about schools in general, people were saying you have to pay between 40,000 and 80,000 dirhams a year for school, right? And so that's like between 10,000. Yeah, it's like between 10 and 20,000 pound a year for schooling, right? And even videos I've seen recently says that, but I've had a different experience. So you can, of course, pay that much, but you can pay however much you want. It's privatized, but you can also get, but I think the impression is that anything less than that, you don't get a decent education, and that's not true. So, okay, actually, to be fair, maybe it is 40 to 80,000 dirhams as they go up, because I'm assuming it goes more expensive, like through high school and stuff. But my kids are 4 and 2 right now, right? And so Zachary is going to be going to a proper school next year, and the school that he's going to be going into is like, again, it's about 25,000 dirhams, between 25 and 30,000 dirhams, and so I think it depends on what your requirements are. So I think a lot of people want, like, what's the best education I can give my child, which of course is like important. For me, the priority is the Islamic environment. And so I was looking for ideally a British curriculum school. And that's only because I've studied under British curriculum. My wife studied under British curriculum. It's just what we know and what we're used to. I do like the idea of him having A-levels and stuff. And so that's like just a default answer. Again, 30 years of our life we've lived in the UK. So I wanted a British curriculum Muslim school. And if that meant that I have to go for a slightly lesser rated education, like not Ofsted outstanding or whatever, but he gets to be in an Islamic environment, Muslim environment, they learn Quran and so on and so forth, and I can hit the majority of my points, I'm happy to supplement education at home, and so on and so forth. So I ended up finding a school that is British Muslim education, British Muslim school, British curriculum, and it's right now we'll be paying about 30,000 dirhams for the year. I imagine it gets more expensive as the years go on, but that's per child. And I went to the open day, and it's state of the art, beautiful building, state of the art facilities, Muslim British teachers from the UK. I can't see anything negative. They're new, so maybe that makes a difference as to why the cost is lower. Like it's, I think, 4 years old or something like that. Whereas I think their Ofsted report was like there was like, or whatever the equivalent to Ofsted was. I think it was like outstanding for the facilities and then good for education. And I think, again, I might be wrong here, but this is like from memory from the open day. So it didn't have a negative for me. I think some people, depending on what kind of parent you are, you go like, no, like one thing I'm not willing to sacrifice is my child's education. Like I remember when we were my child's education, right? I'm going to tell you guys a story in a second. But for me, I'm like, the most important person in my child's life is Islam, and that's what's going to ultimately is Jannah or Jahannam, and that's we're building for the Akhirah. And so this school has like a hifz program. It has normal education, like secular education, but it's like hijab is part of uniform from when they become like year 7 or something, or year 5 or 6, something like that. For obviously for the sisters, and so on and so forth. And after a certain year, it becomes segregated. So these things were important to me, especially knowing like what it was like growing up in a school, obviously, in the UK, and of course what education is like now in the UK. So that's not 40 to 80,000 dirhams. So I don't know. I speak to brothers still here who've got like high-end jobs in in the UK. In Dubai from the UK, and they are paying, like one brother said he was paying like 55,000 dirhams, that's like 15,000 pounds or something. And so my impression was always that it was going to cost that much. But again, maybe it goes up once they hit high school and stuff. But right now, that's what I'm seeing. And so it's not as bad. Most of you guys will probably, if you're coming here in employment, don't have to worry about that. But if you're running your own business like I am, those are things that you have to think about, take into account from a cost perspective. Okay guys, that's the pod, because I thought I'd hit more points but I'm not able to. Please give me your feedback on this episode. Let me know if you think it was more specific, if it was helpful. Make dua for me. I'm conscious that I've been so specific in some aspects because I have tried to live my life by being less specific because of the fact that you don't know what eyes and ears are on you when you put something up publicly. So make dua that Allah protects all of us and puts barakah in all of our work and our businesses. And hopefully this has helped you guys, because ultimately I do really want to help you guys make these decisions, because for me it was the best decision I think I've ever made. And I think that the difference, I speak to a lot of people who said years ago that they would make that move and then they didn't and they regret it. And it is difficult for like a few months, but I wasn't a ultra rich millionaire making the move. I was like, all right, £5,000 needs to be paid. Let's like get the money together, pay, like, all right, what's next? Like, do you know what I mean? So you can do it. And I'm not saying be risky. I'm just saying that I want to help you make that decision, like whatever is easier. Also, we didn't talk about buying homes. So of course, Waasiya is a very viable option for buying homes. Most of us kind of have the impression that there's only 3 ways to really have a house, or 2 ways, sorry. It's either to rent all your life or to buy outright, which is not always realistic. Waasiya gives a third option where you can buy homes in Dubai, and it's interest-free and there's no late payment fees. And so a general idea is, if you get, for example, a 2-bedroom apartment, let's say it costs, I don't know, £250,000, you'd pay a deposit, could be like 20%, so it could be £50,000, and then 1% a year for 7 years, so you're paying £2,500 a month. And then after 3 years, the house is built. For a lot of these, because they're off plans, which means that a property developer is building them, but they're not complete, which is why obviously you pay monthly, interest free, and we can benefit from that. And by doing that, you get to own a home, interest free, no late payment fees. In 7 years, you've paid it off, and And yeah, so if that's a viable option, if you have money saved, £20,000 minimum, because like I think a studio flat, at least you'll need 20 grand or 20, £30,000 minimum. You can start thinking about actually investing in buying property here through Waasiya. If you're interested in that, just follow them on Waasiya Homes on Instagram and drop them a DM. I'm tired, man. That's a lot of talking for one man, huh? By the way, a lot of talking for one man, 11:30 a.m. I haven't started eating food yet. I haven't had my first meal of the day. Oh no, I missed a meeting. Oh man. All right, guys, I have a meeting that apparently started half an hour ago. All right, take care, guys. Love you. Assalamu alaikum.